People just want to be heard. And that was the emphasis for our council to institute coffee with council. When we did it, we said, look, people just want to be heard. And yes, there's going to be questions that you can't answer, that we don't know. There's questions that we say, I don't think we can fix that. But at least you've heard them. You've heard their concern.
Welcome to Cross Border Interviews, the show where we dive into the insights of municipal political leaders from across Canada. Now, our mission on this show is quite simple. Shine a light on the dedicated individuals who day in and day out work around the council table to shape the communities that we call home. And for today's episode, we are sitting down virtually with Claresholm Mayor Brad Schlossberger. Claresholm offers the opportunity to connect with the up-close experience of a traditionally agricultural, active, family-oriented environment. Regularly scheduled weekend events and numerous facilities, shops, and restaurants provide ample entertainment as you nestle in to the Foothills. Enjoy camping trip that can be partnered with a round of golf or take in some action at the Agriplex. Claresholm is your home for weekend excitement. From the smallest village to the largest city, across every region of the province, Alberta Municipalities represents the communities where over 85% of Albertans live. AB Munis provides a united voice for 265 of Alberta's 330 municipalities, including summer villages, towns, cities, and specialized municipalities. As Alberta's largest municipal group, AB Munis listens to municipal leaders and advocates for solutions to their common issues. Additionally, AB Munis supports local governments by providing services specially designed to meet their operational needs. And they bring their members together regularly so they can share ideas and information so that their communities can thrive. Check out Alberta Municipalities at abmunis.ca and follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now called X. Mayor, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Greatly appreciate it. I want to start by getting to know the man behind the persona a little bit, if you don't mind. I've got to ask a simple question, but it's the big question. Where's your sense of duty to serve your community come from, Brad?
I've lived in Claresholm for 45 years. My three sons were born here. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a family. And this community did a great job in raising my family. And I wanted to give back. I wanted to be a part of this community and a part of the decision makers.
Was politics always that guiding light for you, or did you ever think you'd be the mayor of Claresholm, Alberta 45 years ago when you first moved there?
Not at all. Not at all.
So where does the political bug come from? Is it just you decided one day I was going to put my name on the ballot, or you had to have a little bit of a political interest prior to entering the job?
Not really, but no, but I wanted to be a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem. And I thought to myself, well, if you want to be a part of the solution, become a counselor.
Is it easy to be part of the solution in today's age? Because we find ourselves so divided, and councils, no matter what decision you take, whatever decision you make, there's always going to be people who disagree with you. Is it easy to be part of the solution?
If you're focused.
How so?
Focus on the solution, not the problem.
So how do you find the solution then? Because if I ask 100 people in Claresholm what a solution is, they're all going to give me 100 different answers of what that solution is. Yeah, so how do you, as mayor of your community, and you as one vote around that council table, come up with the best solutions for your community?
Uh, we have a great team at the town. We have a great team on council, and we make decisions. That's what we were elected for. Are they always great? Always well accepted? No, but it's always in the mind of council with Claresholm in mind, and not just for now, but for the future.
I can imagine that's probably challenging because you we traditionally find ourselves in a more reactive state in our society today. We react to issues that when they come up rather than be proactive. But as council, like you just said, you have to look at the bigger picture. What does Claresholm look like in 2030, 2050, 2075, 2100? Is it challenging to do that when you have so many challenges? And I'm not saying that Claresholm has its challenges, every community has its challenges. Is it hard to balance those two opposing forces? Because you want to solve the issues today, but you also have to solve the issues of tomorrow.
Yes, of course it is. And most people are reactive, right? They want something fixed today. But if you sit down with them and explain to them, look, we made this decision not for today, but for tomorrow. 99% of people understand.
I like how you say 99%. It's like you're a mayor or something, and 100% of the people will never agree on anything.
No, they don't.
So you have had the privilege to sit around the council table to make the best decisions for the community, for Claresholm, for today and tomorrow. What do you base your judgment on? Because you are only one vote around that table, and you have to go into each council meeting with an open mind because you can never have all the information. You can only have the information that administrations give you, that residents, when they give you the information that you're looking for, they give you. What do you base your judgment on? Because you must have metrics that you put into place to say, okay, this is going to be financially hard for Claresholm, but in the long run, it's going to be beneficial. But we're going to have to ask residents to pony up a $20, $50 extra a month or an extra year to potentially offset that. What do you judge your vote on?
The health of our community.
How so?
Like our streets, our sidewalks, our growth, uh, us expanding our tax base, right? We have to expand. We have to have growth.
Are you finding
And
people
that's,
knocking on your door?
pardon?
Are developers knocking on your door to grow? Because as we were just talking off the air before the recording, I was just in Claresholm. Doesn't seem like much is going on. There's a few businesses that are opening up. There's some development going on at the south end of the community. But would you say developers are coming to the community, or are you in that sort of weird spot where a lot of municipalities are right now, where the larger cities are getting the developments and the smaller communities outside of the larger centers are asking for help, but they just aren't getting it?
Yes, no. And nobody's knocking on our door. I am knocking on doors. I'm talking to people. I talk to everybody. I ask everybody in town, do you know a home builder? Do you know anybody that wants to build homes? Do you know anybody that wants to open a business? That includes business owners in town, because we have business owners in town that want to open another business. And if you don't talk to them, you don't know that.
So what's so Okay, so I'll poke the bear a little bit here, if you don't mind, there, Brad. But
Yep.
we have developers who listen to this show. I've heard from many mayors who've come on this show and say, "We came on your show when we had people knocking on your door a few weeks later because they heard about what they could potentially do." Why is Claresholm a place where people should build a home, build a business? Because we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but give me the pitch that you give to developers that makes people want to say, let's look at Claresholm.
Lower taxes, lower cost of living. I was on a Zoom call this morning with a gentleman who's opening a business in Claresholm that within 10 years, he wants 120 employees. So
That's huge.
it is. And he's only one of at least three that are coming to Claresholm that are going to have a lot of jobs.
So you're going to see a boom in your economy here over the next few years then.
Yes. I
So
need homes though, but we have a
that,
meeting Monday morning with a home builder.
so okay. So understandable you need homes, but I'm not bursting any bubbles here, and I've said this numerous times on this show. Developers will not develop unless the infrastructure is in place. That means water mains to the areas that they're potentially going to develop. That means power. That means roads. That means offsite levies are going to be potentially zero or none. Is Claresholm set up for growth? Like, can you say with certainty that if a developer comes in and says we want to build a 20 house subdivision in Claresholm tomorrow, we could handle that?
Yes.
Shit. Pardon my French.
we have 5 area structure plans around the outside of Claresholm that aren't currently serviced, but could easily be serviced quickly. One plan on the south end of town is 300 plus homes, plus commercial area. And this gentleman is ready to go. And when I talk to business people in town who want to open a new business, I send those people to that developer and I tell him you are interested in purchasing a lot to put up such and such, right? Like Boston Pizza.
Is the affordability crisis challenging developers to go and develop in these your community of Claresholm? Because to bring down workers, to bring down supplies to build housing today is just astronomical. And then everything else outside of that factor, with everything going on with Canada and the United States right now, it is just mind-boggling that we're going to see any potential boom. Do you have hope that we could get through this correctly, or do you have hope that we can build housing in Claresholm if things settle down, or are we going to be having this conversation in 2026 after the next election?
We have our seniors lodge is expanding by 16 units. The company building them has no problem. And they have the labor. They have the labor where other people I've talked to do not have the labor. That's what's slowing so many companies down, is because they don't have the labor.
Is it local labor as well, like people in Claresholm who are laborers who will work, or are they bringing them in from Calgary, Lethbridge, X, Y, and Z?
Anywhere. They all have this problem. If you talk to Trevor Lewington in Lethbridge,
it's like, I'm going to chat with that gentleman next week there, Brad.
Everybody has that problem.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So what's the solution?
Our solution.
There you go.
Our solution to that is we've just been accepted for the new immigration program that Ottawa's put up. And the meeting I was on this morning, the gentleman starting that company wants to be a part of that program. He has people in Slovakia, Brazil, you name it, that want to come to Claresholm, that want to be a part of his company. And he wants to be first in line for that program.
That's huge.
It is.
Like, so, okay, so I'm going to flip the original question a little bit. And how do you, okay, so I've got to word this correctly. Growth is good. I think growth is probably needed in a lot of communities right now because if you don't, you're going to potentially see decreases, and that's the worst thing for municipalities. But I would hazard a guess, and I'm just throwing this out there as I've done on the show numerous times, that if I spoke to about 50 people in Claresholm, there will be some people who say, I want Claresholm to stay the way it is today. I want Claresholm to be the town that I moved to. I want Claresholm to be the community that is small because with growth comes challenges. And I say this respectfully, and I say this knowing that Claresholm is not unique in this. Growth comes with potential rise in crime, rise in homelessness, rise in social issues. How do you balance the growth that the municipality needs with the understanding that we want that small town, even on your website it says small town agricultural friendly community that people know Claresholm to be?
Um, it is a challenge because there are people that want Claresholm to stay the same, right? But one of our successes that I've implemented since I became mayor is coffee with council twice a month. And we have people come in and we don't dress up in suits and sit around the council table. We sit out in the audience and we take questions informally, any question. I don't care what it is. We take it. And when you explain to people who think they want Claresholm to stay the same, when you explain that if we stay the same, we're going to go downhill. Not it's never going to stay the same.
Never, no matter what, if it's going to go up or go down, which way do you want it to go? It's never going to plateau. I want to pick up on something you just said there because it's a topic that I talk about a lot on this show. Now, I have watched Claresholm social media. I watch what you guys do in those coffee with counselors, and council and mayor are great. I find that there's an apathy in this country when it comes to municipal government. I would hazard a guess that there's a large portion of our population in Canada who truly don't know the jurisdictional roles that municipalities, the province, and the federal government play on a day-to-day basis. Now, you as the mayor, I'm going to hazard a guess, you know those roles. You know them probably a lot better than most people. So when you do have those council coffees, and you just said, ask me whatever you want. But you can't solve everything. You can't solve healthcare. You can't solve education. You can't solve provincial highway issues. But most of the time, I hear from mayors and councils is that's what we're being asked from our residents. So, how do you, as mayor, tell people that's not my role without telling them that's not my role? Because I can imagine they've come to you because they know you more. And this is a weird statement to say because literally your MLA was literally the person who you took over from as your job as mayor. So there's probably a higher guess that they know you a little bit more or see you more often than their MLA or their MP.
Yep. Yep. And if you, I get asked that on social media, why don't you fix the highway? Why don't you fix the pavement on the highway going through Claresholm? And I'm like, I explained to them, that is not my jurisdiction. I can't do anything about that. And it's the same with healthcare. It's all that is beyond me. So I can't fix that. So you have to educate people. And I think we've done a pretty good job with that.
Are people willing to hear that answer though? Because the worst thing you could ever say to somebody is, we can't fix it. So are people willing to
We can't
understand that? Go ahead.
we can't fix that,
That's what I
right?
mean. Yeah, that we can't fix that, but you can fix other things, but you just can't fix the thing that you're asking me to do. That is the provincial. But
Yep,
a major highway through a city or a community like Claresholm, there's some overlap there, right? Because while it is a provincial highway running through your community, your streets run through that highway as well. So you do have
yep.
responsibility. So when people do approach you with questions and with inquiries about what's going on or what's happening, is it more you're finding that people just want to be heard about their issues rather than they want to be solved and they just want someone to vent to because you're the closest to the people?
Yes, lots of times. People just want to be heard. And that was the emphasis for our council to institute coffee with council. When we did it, we said, look, people just want to be heard. And yes, there's going to be questions that you can't answer, that we don't know. There's questions that we say, I don't think we can fix that. But at least you've heard them. You've heard their concern.
So what do you do with that
Nobody
information?
else.
Because I can imagine you hear a lot of things, and you are a very approachable man. You're very active on social media, as I see on LinkedIn. You're very active on LinkedIn. So when you get people approaching you, knowing that you can't do things, do you bring it up to your MLA? Do you bring it up to your MP? Do you bring it up with cabinet ministers that you meet? What is the process that you take the information that you've accumulated through these coffee meetings and disseminate it so that way you feel like you're doing something to better your community from the comments that you're hearing from the residents?
If we hear comments out on the street at Coffee with Council, if it is something that we feel that MLA or that MP can address, we'll pass it on. We'll, as a town, we'll write a letter. We'll send it to those people. Unlike other places, I follow up. So if we send a letter to our MLA, a week afterwards, I follow up. I ask, right? And if you don't ask, you're not going to get told.
Amen to that. Because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of uncertainty because when you send a letter or you email someone, you're like, okay, it's out of my hands, and I'll just wait to see what happens, right? Like who could imagine? Like they'll get back to me in their time, but unless because you're a political leader and you're the leader of your community and you want the best, you do have to sort of poke the bear a little bit and try to get them to engage with you, so that way you can come to a resolution. So if you see resident X on the street, you can say, hey, John, hey, Jane, I got a
Yep.
call back from the MP.
Yes. Yes.
Good
Yep.
times. Good times.
Yeah.
Uh,
You
uh,
have you
go.
have to talk to people. And I mean everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody. I believe
Even the ones who
Claresholm,
disagree with you?
yes. Yes.
How do you deal with that then? Because we live in a society where we are keyboard warriors, and I say that with respect to anyone who believes that they should be able to say whatever they want online. Go right ahead. If you want to send me an email, send it to me. Don't send it to the mayor, send it to me, and I will file it in the appropriate location. But I believe municipal leaders like yourself should be held responsible and should speak to people because you represent everyone. And last time I checked, the mayoral election, you didn't get 100% of the votes unless you got acclaimed. And
Yeah. No.
so when you do respond to people who may be in disagreements, is it easier to just let them talk and listen? Because the old saying goes, you have two ears and one mouth, better to use two things than one. For you, how do you deal with people who disagree with you? Is it just listening?
listening, acknowledging them, and telling them that you have the right to your opinion. I don't agree with your opinion, but you have the right to have your own opinions, right? We had one at Coffee with Council last week. It's just the way it is, and well, 99% of the people, when you acknowledge them and when you tell them that they have the right to their own opinion, they calm down. They're like, wow, we don't hear this often.
Well, I'm not here. I don't hear this conversation that often, so it's refreshing to hear it from the mayor in 2025 that you're willing to have those conversations and you're willing to just, unfortunately, I had to say it this way, but take the crap sometimes and take the bad end of the stick and hold it because you're representing everyone, not just the people who voted for you. I, I
That's
want
correct.
I want to flip the script a little bit, and we talked about it a little bit at the top of the interview, but I want to dive into it. And before I do this, I guess I should have said this at the top of the interview. This is a conversation between the mayor and myself. This is not a motion of council. This is not a direction of council. This is not a policy of council. This is his opinion and his opinion alone. Now, it may line up with what's going on at council, but at the end of the day, it's still his opinion. He's one vote on council. He needs a majority of votes to do anything. That being said, Mayor, in your opinion, as of recording this at the beginning of February 2025, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Claresholm today?
I'm sure it's not a surprise. Lack of funding.
Oh, okay. Actually, I am very shocked at that. So you're saying, are you talking about provincial funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Policing costs, infrastructure money, that's all been drastically cut back, right? So you need to learn and be very thoughtful about where you invest your money, right? You can't, it's going to get cut back. So you're going to have less, but you have to learn how to adapt and how to make it work.
So I want to just pick up on that before you go ahead because policing costs that comes from the federal government. Last, just clarification. No, are you not RCMP?
Yes, we are, but it's not through Ottawa.
But they downloaded the cost to municipalities over 5,000. Are you not over 5,000?
No,
Oh,
but
that's a
but
never mind. First
The
time I could say
RCMP,
never mind Ottawa.
the RCMP in Alberta have a
Yep.
contract with the Alberta government. The
Yeah.
Alberta government has a contract with Ottawa, right? And to be truthful, it was the Alberta municipalities that came up with this idea that everybody should pay their share of policing. That's what we got. How can you argue with that?
So it sounds like you weren't in favor of that then.
No, I wasn't. But
Well, okay,
again,
but that's the
majority
real
rules.
exactly the majority rules, and that's the world that we live in right now. So how do you work with that system that we have in place? Because last time I checked, crime and policing is probably one of the top issues that most people are concerned about right now. On top of that, affordability, because for a community like Claresholm, your police don't just stay in Claresholm. They're not only in Claresholm. You have a massive municipal district around you called Willow Creek, and I would hazard a guess that people are out there. RCMP officers are out in Willow Creek, and that goes all the way down to Stavely, like all the way down to Fort McLeod. So how do you balance that? Do you just basically have to bang on the door of the Minister of Justice in Edmonton and say, help us, or what?
That's one of those questions that is pretty much out of my hands. When this first was instituted 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we complained.
Yeah.
We wrote letters, but that
Nothing's
didn't
been
change
done.
anything. No. And that it was our idea, and that's what we got told from the provincial government. This was your idea. So here you go. So you learn to adapt. You know that you're going to have those costs. So you better build it in to your planning.
But okay, this is a fascinating conversation. I want to just tweak a little bit here.
Yep.
You're right. What's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. What's good for one community is not always good for the whole community. So while you are, I wouldn't say upset, you're frustrated with the system that is currently in place because that is the majority, how the majority ruled. How do you then look at what's going on in Claresholm and say, well, the majority on council voted this way, so therefore we're right and you're wrong, and our vision for what Claresholm is going to look like in 5 years is going to be the one that council has decided because the majority of us voted on issues. Because majority of Alberta municipalities members voted on that issue, and that's how the cookie crumbled, and that's how the province tells you. So isn't that just? And I hate to say it this way, but hypercritical of you calling out Alberta municipalities when residents may be calling out you?
We I've been on council for almost 8 years. I think it's been 5 or 6 since this was instituted for us to be paying a portion of policing. That if
Isn't
you
there
explain
isn't
to
there
people,
isn't there only one taxpayer? Like if the money's not coming from
yeah,
you, it's coming from the taxpayer as well. So, and I'm not trying to be challenging. I like to play devil's advocate on the show a lot. I love Brad. Brad's amazing. Brad's great. I love Claresholm. Best cinnamon buns in all town. Like greatest community ever. So I'm just gonna like blow some smoke a little bit here because I feel like people are gonna be like, you were attacking Brad. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm being respectful. I'm being nice. So where does the municipality have to say, okay, while we're going to not be paying for it and the province is going to, the residents are still on the hook because the money has to come from one person. And last time I checked, taxes are paid by everyone. They all go in the same pot.
yep, yep. Except, Chris, the portion we pay for that policing is paid for by our citizens. Whereas for all of Alberta, it's Alberta taxpayers that pay for it, right? So the portion we pay for policing is paid for by our residents. Their tax dollars pay for that portion of our policing.
Oh, you talk about funding being a major challenge, and again, look at us. We talked 5 minutes on just policing, and didn't expect that to be in this conversation, but here we are in 2025. You talk
Yep.
about infrastructure funding, and now I've had the pleasure to chat with Minister Rick McIver a few times on this show, and I've had the pleasure of asking him directly, municipalities want more funding. And he'll say, and he has said this to me on the record, municipalities will always ask for more money because that's the way they work. So, what's your response to Minister McIver saying you already have enough money? You have LGFF, which is tied to royalties. So, when royalties go up, your funding goes up. But I don't know your exact number, and I'm not sure if you can name it off the top of your head. I would hazard a guess that it's probably not a big portion of LGFF that you get compared to Edmonton, Calgary, Lethbridge, Grand Prairie, Medicine Hat.
No,
Not to
no,
pick on
not
those
even close.
communities.
Not even close. But as a community, for as far back as you can tell, you've had a budget. That changed. That is not going to change a whole lot. Like it's not going to change a whole bunch. So you have to learn to adapt, do what you can. What you can't do, you can't do. but you have to be strategic about what you're going to do with that money. And yes, we don't have as much as we used to, so you have to adapt.
Do you have concerns that if infrastructure funding isn't increased to municipalities like Claresholm, you could be in deep trouble in a few years?
No,
Why not? Are you saving correctly?
yes,
Good for you.
you plan for it.
Look
You
at that.
know, you know what's coming, so you better plan for it. If you don't, then you're going to be in trouble.
No, and look at that. We went all full circle there. We started by talking about saving for the future, and we ended by saving for the future. Now, I am very cautious of time here, Brad, and I want to get this question in because I don't want people to go away from this conversation thinking that Claresholm has its challenges, which it does, and every municipality in this country does as well. What's the thing going right for Claresholm right now? What's the thing that you look at and you say, you know what? We have our challenges, but we've got this going right for us.
In 2024, we had a record for development permits that have been approved through our development office. We have 80 residential units approved. We have like 20 commercial industrial permits approved. RSIP, our immigration program. You, unless you've been a part of one of these programs, you have no idea how big a spotlight it puts on your community. Everybody brings it up. Everybody talks about it.
In a good way or a bad
like,
way?
Good.
Okay.
Well, in the community, there's a few that don't like it.
Again, not 100% of the people are going to agree on anything.
Yeah. There's always 1% or 2% that don't, but they don't understand it. And when you explain it to them, they're like, oh, that does make sense. Yeah. Right? And it's a huge advantage. It was the first program was a huge advantage to us. It brought 170 people into our community. We supplied 40 businesses with employees that they couldn't get before that. It's a huge success for Claresholm.
That's awesome. I've introduced a new segment to the show, and I'm only asking Alberta municipal leaders this question, and that is because we are literally less than 8 months away from the next provincial election or municipal election here in the province of Alberta. Municipalities will be heading to the polls in October of 2025. So I've got to ask the political question. Have you decided if you're running for re-election yet, Mayor?
My papers are filled out, and I'm handing them in this afternoon.
Well, you heard it here first. Well, I'm not sure if it's first, but by the time this airs, you will hear this is the first he's saying it on the record that he is running for re-election. So my question then is, what does Claresholm look like in 2029 at the end of your potential next 4-year term?
Oh, that's pretty hard to answer.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, I know. 1/3 of our population added on. We're going to increase by 1/3. Population, businesses, houses, everything.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. So in 2029, you and I are going to have a little sit-down coffee down in Claresholm, and we'll see if that comes true. My last area that I want to talk about is my favorite, and that's tourism. I think every community has some great features that need to be promoted. What are the hidden gems that are in Claresholm that you think people should know about if they're coming through Claresholm?
Our golf course.
I have heard about this golf course about 3 times in the last 2 weeks. I need to go play a round of golf. So you and I are going golfing
You
this year,
do.
Mayor Brad.
There you go. Our museum, our events. We have fair days. Well, let's start at the beginning. We have Winter Festival in February. We have Canada Day. By the way, we have what's called Around the World, and all our immigration people set up a big tent, and they all have little booths. And last year, there was 19 tables from different countries at Canada Day. And and if you have some portion of your population that don't understand, I always tell them, come with me, and we'll go through that booth. We'll go through that tent. And they believe it after that. Fair days after that, and old-fashioned Christmas. And funny you should ask about tourism. Our museum is great and they're expanding. But after your call, I have a Zoom call with a lady from Edmonton who does that for a living. Helps communities identify tourism opportunities.
That is awesome. Well, I want to get to your museum sometime this year. So maybe when I'm back down there
Perfect.
playing a round of golf with you, we can go to the museum as well.
Perfect.
Before I let you go, I have one last question, and it's the $1,000,000 question, Brad. In your opinion, what makes Claresholm such a unique place to live, work, and raise a family?
The people. It's always been the people. Even when my kids were toddlers, people cared. People loved them. When I needed somebody to take one of my 3 sons to hockey, you had to pick one that wanted to take your son to hockey. That's the truth, and I see it in our office. I come to work this morning, and there's hearts on my door that say, "Thank you for all you do for Claresholm. Thank you for this." That's how people are in this town. I'm going to a surprise birthday party for an elderly lady tonight, and she is a wonderful, wonderful person.
Brad, I want to thank you, Mayor Schlossberger. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been an honest to goodness pleasure. I feel like we're old friends. I'm an admirer of your social media game, so I'll be continuously watching that as the days tick by. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sitting down and doing this interview. It's always a pleasure to meet municipal leaders who are doing it for the right reasons. So thank you.
Next time you're in town, let's do lunch.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Cross Border Interviews. Now, we hope you've enjoyed the conversation, gained some valuable insights from one of Alberta's municipal leaders. To stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platforms or on YouTube, and follow us on social media at Cross Border Network. For even more content and learn more about the stories and people we feature on this show, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Your support means the world to us, so share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community. Help keep the conversation going. So until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time here on Cross Border Interviews. Till then, everyone.